As of late 2025, Iran is facing one of the worst environmental emergencies in its modern history. The country's ninth and current president, Masoud Pezeshkian, in office since July 2024, has gone from warning about drought to openly talking about the possible evacuation and even relocation of the capital, Tehran. Recent data from Iranian authorities and international analysts show just how fragile the situation has become. Tehran's main reservoirs are at historic lows. Some dams serving the capital are reported at around 5–12% of capacity, and at least one has run completely dry. Nationwide, nearly 10% of Iran's large dams are now empty, while many others are critically depleted. Rainfall across the country has plunged around 40–45% below normal on average over the past year, and 19 or more of Iran's 31 provinces are in severe drought. In Tehran itself, this has combined with record heat, rapid urban growth, heavy groundwater pumping, and decades of mismanaged water policy to push the city toward what some experts call water bankruptcy. Against this backdrop, President Pezeshkian has issued some of the starkest public warnings any Iranian leader has made about the country's environmental future. In a recent speech, he cautioned that without immediate rain, authorities will be forced to impose harsh rationing in Tehran and that the crisis could escalate into something far more dramatic. If it doesn't rain, we will have to start restricting water supplies in Tehran next month. If the drought continues, we will run out of water and be forced to evacuate the city. Those words have resonated far beyond the capital. They are not abstract threats. Officials and analysts now openly discuss scenarios in which a city of more than 10–14 million people could face day zero conditions when there simply isn't enough water left in the system to keep taps running. Today, Tehran is a city trying to function on borrowed time. The dams in the Alborz mountains that feed the capital, such as Latian and Amir Kabir, have seen their levels collapse after several consecutive years of poor rainfall and the hottest, driest autumn in decades. Satellite imagery, on-the-ground photos and government figures all tell the same story. Exposed lake beds, cracked mud where shorelines once stood, and reservoirs at fractions of their normal volume. Officials admit some of these dams have reached the lowest levels in a century. The effects are already visible in daily life. In many neighborhoods, water pressure drops sharply after midnight, and households report long hours with either trickles from their taps or no water at all. Residents have turned to private tankers, rooftop storage tanks, and bottled water just to get through the week. Businesses in manufacturing and services complain that unannounced cuts to water and electricity are disrupting work and driving up costs. To buy time, authorities have taken increasingly drastic measures. At the height of a summer heat wave, the government declared public holidays in Tehran and several other provinces to reduce energy and water use, effectively shutting down much of the capital for days. Offices were ordered closed, and people were urged to stay home, limit water use, and prepare for outages. In public, President Pezeshkian has tried to balance alarm with appeals for collective responsibility. During one high-profile appearance, he stressed that Tehran's growth and consumption patterns have simply outpaced what the region's climate and water systems can support. He has repeatedly asked citizens to cut their water use by at least 20% to keep the system from collapsing. At the same time, he has warned that voluntary savings alone will not be enough if the skies remain dry. In another televised speech, he sharpened his message. If it doesn't rain, we'll have to start rationing water in Tehran between late November and early December. That date has now passed into a period of tighter pressure restrictions, expanding nighttime cuts, and more urgent planning for how to protect hospitals, key infrastructure, and vulnerable communities if shortages get worse. The word evacuation, once unthinkable in discussions about a major capital, is now part of the mainstream conversation inside Iran. In both domestic and international coverage of his remarks, Pezeshkian's warning that Tehran might have to be cleared out if the drought continues has become a defining line of this crisis. In that same set of warnings, he put it in stark, simple terms. Even if we do ration it and it still doesn't rain by then, we'll run out of water. We'll have to evacuate Tehran. Behind those words lies a staggering logistical and political challenge. Tehran is more than a city. It is the country's political center, economic hub, and cultural heart. Moving millions of people, or even just planning for such a move, would reshape everything from Iran's budget priorities to its internal security calculations. In parallel, the president has started to talk not just about possible short-term evacuations, but about a more permanent change. In recent comments, he suggested that Tehran might simply be ecologically unsustainable as a capital in the long run. Environmental experts have been making variations of this argument for years. Tehran sits in a semi-arid basin surrounded by mountains, with limited water sources and vulnerability to both drought and air pollution. The city has sprawled as the population has grown, groundwater has been pumped aggressively, and industries and apartment towers have climbed up the hillsides. The result is a metropolitan area that depends heavily on long-distance transfers of water and an already overstretched network of dams, pipes, and wells. Now, the question of relocating the capital once a distant academic debate is back on the table as a real policy option. The current disaster is not only about bad luck with the weather, it is the product of three interacting forces: climate change, chronic mismanagement, and the relentless pressure of demand from cities and farms. Climate records show that Iran has suffered a series of dry years, with overall rainfall sharply below historical averages. Over the past 5 years, precipitation has fallen to critically low levels, and 2025 has brought the most severe drought yet, especially in central and northern provinces. Heat waves with temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius in parts of the country have increased evaporation and pushed energy demand higher, forcing power plants, many dependent on water for cooling, to compete directly with households and agriculture. But climate stress has collided with long-standing structural problems. For decades, Iran encouraged water-intensive farming in arid regions, subsidized cheap water and energy, and approved heavy industry projects in areas that lacked stable water supplies. Agriculture now consumes around 80–90% of the country's fresh water, often using outdated irrigation methods that lose enormous volumes to leakage and evaporation. This mix has drained rivers, wetlands, and aquifers. Iconic water bodies like Lake Urmia have shrunk dramatically or dried up, and land subsidence has become a serious issue across dozens of provinces as groundwater is pumped faster than nature can replace it. Tehran, with its dense population and sprawling infrastructure, is one of the places where all these problems converge. The city draws on surface water from dams and on groundwater from local wells. Both sources are under extreme stress. Reservoirs are low, and over-extraction from aquifers has left parts of the capital and its outskirts literally sinking. Officials are now facing hard choices: cutting water to farmers, industries, and cities, investing in expensive desalination and new pipelines, or accepting that some regions may no longer be able to sustain their current populations. Everyday life underwater bankruptcy. For ordinary Iranians, the crisis is no longer an abstract policy debate. It is something they live with, hour by hour. Reports from Tehran describe families skipping showers, reusing water for cleaning, and keeping buckets under leaky taps to save every drop. Some residents go to bed worried there may simply be no water the next day. In poorer neighborhoods and informal settlements, people rely on shared taps and tanker deliveries, paying more for less reliable service than those connected to the main network. Rural communities and small towns, especially in provinces where dams and rivers have dried up, face even harsher realities. Farmers have left fields fallow, sold livestock, or migrated to cities after wells went dry. Dust storms fueled by dried wetlands and exposed soils have become more frequent, bringing health problems and further degrading land. Experts describe the situation with an analogy that has caught public attention. One prominent water specialist compared Iran's water system to a bank account that has been emptied. The checking account of surface water is almost gone, and the savings of groundwater are dangerously overdrawn. Meanwhile, Tehran is grappling with overlapping environmental crises. Alongside the lack of water, air pollution has reached alarming levels, trapping residents in smog that aggravates respiratory illnesses and adds to a general sense of siege. What the government says it will do. President Pezeshkian has promised a shift in how the state handles water and energy. He has talked about modernizing agriculture, moving heavy industry toward coastal regions where desalinated seawater could be used, and tightening controls on groundwater pumping. At the same time, his administration is testing emergency measures. These include more aggressive pressure management and nighttime cuts in major cities, plans to reduce water allocated to agriculture and industry by tens of billions of cubic meters over the coming decade. Pilot cloud seeding operations over some basins, even though experts warn such efforts have limited effects without underlying moisture. Exploratory talks and projects to import water from neighbouring countries, particularly in border regions where rivers cross frontiers. But these measures come with major financial and political costs. Sanctions limit Iran's access to international financing and technology, and internal disagreements persist over whether to prioritise short-term relief or long-term structural reform. Public scepticism is also high. Many Iranians note that officials have been warning of a water crisis for years without making the deep changes experts recommended. For them, the sudden rush to call for conservation and the possibility of evacuating the capital feel like signs that the state waited too long. What makes this moment so sensitive is that Iran is facing its water emergency on top of other economic, political and security pressures. The country is still dealing with the fallout from past protests, sanctions and recent regional conflict. A crisis that literally turns off the taps in the capital risks touching every other part of national life at once. If Tehran were to experience extended citywide water cuts, or if the government were forced to begin even partial evacuations, the consequences would be profound. Political stability. Water shortages can quickly become a catalyst for protest, especially if people believe mismanagement, corruption, or inequality are to blame. Economic activity. Tehran's role as the center of finance, services, and industry means that disruption there would ripple across the entire economy. Regional dynamics. A weakened, distracted Iran would face new challenges in its foreign policy and regional posture, with potential implications for neighboring countries and ongoing tensions in the Middle East. Public trust. Years of warnings that went unheeded have already eroded confidence in institutions. A full-blown water catastrophe in the capital could deepen that crisis of trust. This is why Pezeshkian's warnings are being watched so closely, both inside and outside Iran. When a sitting president says the capital might have to be evacuated, it raises questions not only about water levels, but about the future shape of the country's politics and society. For now, Tehran is still running, the lights are on, the taps still flow for many hours of the day, and life continues in a tense, uneasy normal. But the margin for error is shrinking. Each dry week brings the reservoirs closer to their limits and adds weight to the president's stark words. If the drought continues, we will run out of water and be forced to evacuate the city. In that sentence, Iran's water crisis stops being just another story about climate change and becomes something more immediate and existential, a test of whether a modern state can adapt fast enough when the resource it depends on most simply begins to run out.